In this episode of Travelogue, I set out on a spiritual journey to discover Zen. I'll learn how Zen inspired Steve Jobs to create his iconic designs, and how its principles help us to lead a more rewarding, mindful life. Hello and welcome to this episode of Travelogue in China. Now, when I mention Zen, you probably think of Japanese temples and beautifully manicured sand gardens, but what a lot of people don't know is that Zen was brought to Japan from China, where it's known as Chan. And in this episode, I want to find out what is the meaning of Chan. I'm Tianran, and welcome to the Caoshan Baoji Temple. Nestled among the mountains of southern China's Jiangxi province is the home of the Caodong school of Chan Buddhism. It's one of the 5 main houses of Chan, or Zen, and places a strong emphasis on meditation. It's also a way of life, and its principles are found in many aspects of design. To find out more, I'm meeting the head of the Caoshan Baoji Temple, Abbess Yang Li. She was a recipient of the World Buddhist Outstanding Leader Award and is also a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine. She's a lady of many talents.
他们问我禅，我说禅无处不在的，实际上，一个好的摄影师，一个好的画家，一个好的艺术家，他们修禅特别容易契入。你比如乔布斯，他要会提取。我觉得禅就是说，在身心的基础上超越身心。你看，所有的好的设计都是简洁，就是繁复当中能不能呈现简洁。
那咱们最终的目标就是开悟。
最终的目标就是美好生活。
It's almost too simple.
美好生活。
Well, I guess that's the short answer. 一说到 Zen， 大家就是肯定会想到日本的那些那些 temple 啊，他们的 Zen 跟咱们的禅有什么区别？
他们的禅是从咱们这儿传过去的。我觉得日本是把就是东方文化里面气可载道，对于气，我觉得还是有所创新，有所承载。中国的禅更讲的是心法，心法，所以也叫心宗。中国的禅宗实际上是 印度佛教在中国本土化的标志。
In adapting Buddhism to Chinese culture, Chan incorporated aspects of Taoism, the prevailing religion in the country at the time. It even borrowed from the I Ching, the ancient classic of divination. It's very low-key, isn't it? But this is the 1,100-year-old tomb of the Caodong school's founder, and centuries later his disciples brought the Caodong school to Japan, where it flourished, and then again in the 1960s it was taken to the States, and there they founded the San Francisco Zen Center, which was instrumental in maturing Steve Jobs' understanding of Zen. It helped him to really boil things down to their essence and find out that simplicity is key, and you see that everywhere in Apple's design. Jobs' passion for simple, elegant design was heavily influenced by Zen philosophy. He was able to achieve an intense level of focus thanks to meditation. For followers of Chan, meditation is the way to reach spiritual enlightenment.
那每天我们僧众从早到晚，上殿过堂坐香，都是根据这个钟板，它的号令来运转的。就这个钟板，每天我们曹洞宗是333下，它是固定的，一下不能多，一下不能少。禅堂是整个禅宗丛林的核心。
I like this. This is nice.
Here at Caoshan Baoji Temple, the day begins and ends with meditation. An hour-long session in the morning and another in the evening.
I can see a couple of problems arising already.
To be honest, I've never meditated for longer than 5 minutes without getting bored, so doing this for an entire hour is a daunting prospect.
那咱们坐禅的时候，应该是琢磨什么事情？
一天下来，如果自己很焦虑、很有压力，可以调自己的呼吸，来观自己的呼吸，一点点的放松下来就可以。
Before we sit down to meditate, we must first light incense in front of a statue of the Buddha before circling it in silence for half an hour. I guess you could think of it as a warm-up for the meditation. For beginners like me, the aim here is to think about nothing. Just sit.
It's pretty interesting. In there, it was utterly silent, and it's funny when it becomes silent, you realize how loud everything is. It's different from doing it at home. If you do it in a group, it's just a whole new level. Try it for yourself.
This is how the day begins here in the temple.
In the morning. It's a bit early, isn't it? But this is the start of the day for most people in the temple. Most have gone to recite their sutras, but some are out in the kitchen making the meals for the day, breakfast, lunch and dinner. So I'm going to go see if I can go help them out.
Most of the temple's residents are nuns, also known as bhikkhunis. However, there's also a number of lay people here, most of whom work in the kitchen. They're here to 修行, which translates as cultivating oneself. Basically, it means to live in line with Buddhist principles and just generally be a good person.
Just gonna give you guys a bit of a disclaimer. I haven't cooked for about 7 years, so if there's a bit of extra ingredients in the food today, then you'll know where they've come from. 其实这种活在家里都自己不爱做的，这个跟修行有什么关系？
因为禅宗讲究日用之道，当你的内心都保持一个专注和平静的时候，就是在修行了。
那比方说，咱们现在在切这个土豆的时候，应该在想什么呀？
应该什么都不想。
什么都不想。
想多了容易切手。
100%的注意力在放在切的这个过程上。
安住在某一个当下，这就是修行。
The point is, For Chan, self-cultivation isn't separate from normal life. You don't have to meditate in a cave like a hermit in order to reach enlightenment. In fact, it's said that many Chan masters achieved it while working in the kitchen. One of Shengyue's duties is to decide the daily menu.
想这个，
这是
你要吃什么？我觉得是特别费脑子的，一定要搭配的颜色。再从那个就是说，它是树，它就比如说树上长的，还是地里长出来的，还是叶子菜，还是茎类菜。
All meals are taken communally in the canteen. And just like with meditation, eating also has its own set of rules. There's no talking and no wastage allowed. It's all meant to make you pay attention to what you're doing and gain insight about yourself.
Meals are always like that, always silent. You're supposed to be concentrating fully on your food. And obviously you've got to finish everything in your bowl. Quite an interesting way to eat, I think. Anyway, your bowl's always yours. You've got to clean up after yourself.
A significant development in Buddhism after it arrived in China was that monks and nuns started working for a living. As an agricultural society, the Chinese have always believed in ploughing their own fields, and the nuns of Caoshan Baoji Temple grow, harvest and prepare their own food. As a famous Chan master once said, a day without work is a day without food.
学学吧。
哎，好。那咱们一般种什么呀？
按照那个次第来种，该吃什么就按照那个资源规律来。
那很丰富的，其实。
不错啊，为什么在这里是养生啊？这么拿出来吃就好。
Oh. I don't think they're gonna get much use out of me today. 这哦，就斜着下去是吧？
斜的，斜的。就反正你能吃的就吃嘛，是吧？好多祖师他都确实在那个干活里面成就的，他干活中呢，他是光心的。 他没有说心在外面。现在我们在那个事情是吧，很无着是吧？一下子一个声音来，那个声音，我们那个哎就跟着声音走了，这个就定不住。
That's an interesting concept. I always thought doing chores like this, you know, planting crops would be quite tiring, manual labour, but different ways of looking at it. So yeah, next time you got homework, you've got a deadline, just remember that kind of mindset.
The point is to be fully present and aware of what you're doing without being distracted by anything. In other words, remain mindful. Which is easier said than done, especially if, like me, you're being swarmed by mosquitoes. But just like with cooking, we're doing this to serve everyone in the temple.
还挺多。 够今天4元用了吧？
够一天了，有多了。
Coming up next, I get first-hand experience of the temple's curriculum and discover I've been walking wrong my whole life. The Chinese believe it's important to cultivate both land and mind. And of the many Buddhist academies in China, this is the only one to teach traditional Chinese medicine. Today's class is acupuncture.
I've never had acupuncture before, so it's kind of frightening at the same time.
Acupuncture has been around for over 2,000 years and is a popular form of medical treatment in China.
您现在上课上多久了呀？
我们都上了1年了。
哦，
快1年了。
这个课是报名的吗？还是就是都得学？
对，是自己自愿报名的。
最开头怎么对针灸有兴趣？
因为我们毕竟是出家人嘛，可以通过这样的方式呢去接引众生，去度化众生，也挺好的。
TCM doctors believe networks of qi, or life energy, flow through our bodies like arteries. When these get blocked, it causes us pain, so thin needles are inserted into these points to relieve the blockage.
其实我们针灸在治病的时候啊，其实并不是我们在治病，真正疗愈的其实是患者自己本身。
怎么讲？
因为你看这个气血这样嘛，对吧？那就生病。那我就透过扎针啊、吃药，哎，它调整了，变成这样，那就好了。
In a way, TCM and Buddhism are pretty similar. They're both about restoring your original self.
没想到第一次上课就会体验了呀！
可以，要进一下就进去了。
嗷！
我是直接给他进去的。
嗷！
它为什么那么痛？就是因为它那个针只在皮肤上。
Oh my god! It's like someone punched me in the tendon. It's alright. There's a slight stinging sensation. I can feel like some kind of weird feeling here. 这是麻，不是麻，但是有一种。
All right, time for a slightly less painful lesson. We're heading out for art class.
因为太阳一闪，跟着我。
It's funny, I mean, everyone here is a nun, bikini, but at the end of the day, they're still kids, aren't they? Kids will be kids.
大家跟他们打个招呼，跟大炮打个招呼。打招呼。看到大炮了吧？
Everyone's reason for coming here is different. Some of these children are orphans, while others have Buddhist parents. And while their schooling is definitely non-standard, there are many subjects in their curriculum that are the same as what kids would study on the outside.
就不要了，让它这个树近一点，因为这图纸树。
This is great. I mean, art was my favorite class at school, and it's been almost 2 decades since then. But I think it's interesting in that, you know, everyone has to learn to appreciate their surroundings, see the beauty in their surroundings, and you know, it's not just about reciting scriptures and meditation and whatnot. There's a lot of real life stuff too.
我给你们跳，我给你们分开啊。
For these nuns, the main goal isn't to become great artists. It's more about improving their skills of observation, so they're more aware of their environment and themselves.
出来玩玩，感受一下这种自然的气息是很好的。
对，但是带着咱们比丘尼。 小比丘尼跟带着别的小孩还是不太一样的，
还是不一样。咱们师傅们都比较静，而且呢坐得住，这是他的特点。他们都能席地而坐，都能坐着。咱们要是这么大的岁数，实在小孩像坐，别说是超过半个小时，他们5分钟就待不了，
跑来跑去了，
就跑来跑去了。我是认为他们看这个自然啊，看这个景，他们会有一种比较静的心去发掘。都不赖，是吧？你看，这么小。
One of the most influential books on Zen in the West is Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. It tells us to approach every experience with a beginner's mind that's open and has no preconceptions, just like when we were children. Chan teaches us to be true to ourselves, to be less like an adult going around making assumptions about things, and more like a child, experiencing everything for the first time.
禅看不见摸不着，怎么能呈现？不是说永远是说不清道不明的，实际上是能说得清，能道得明，能感受得到。这个斗笠碑亭亭玉立的感觉。如果你这样的话，它是一个素碑，那但是在影子下面呢，它别有洞天。这是一个就此。
By being mindful, you're better able to observe and find inspiration from your environment.
它给我们带来的留白的空间太。我特别喜欢一个树叫玉兰树，这就是玉兰花，
要是放一起，
是吧？哈，然后你看这两个在一起，
对，
这块有一个腰身，实际上中途是鼓起来的，这么小的一个细节，这是大自然给我们的一个智慧。
I think it's interesting. A lot of people ask stuff like, "What is Zen?" I guess, simplicity is key. A lot of good design is simple, but it's not basic. It's the essence of something made solid. If at one stage we find that one thing that we want to commit our lives to, through different forms of industry, we'll be able to tell the world how we feel. I think that's probably the key thing I took from today's lesson. So we're going to go do something now that's called 行脚, which loosely translates to cultivating one's foot, which basically just means that we're going to go out for a walk and we're going to contemplate stuff, I guess. It's in silence, so I guess I'm going to be contemplating things, but I should probably go join them.
It's a lot harder than it looks. You're supposed to swing your right arm a bit more than your left, but without moving your shoulders, which has the effect of making me walk like a robot.
Quite pleasant, this stroll. A little bit weird, but I have to kind of be like that. Feels a little bit uncomfortable. But everything else is great. Listening to the bird songs, lots of fresh air. But concentrating on the line in the robe in front of me, my eyes are kind of starting to water. It's quite hard. The silence I can deal with, the concentration, not so much.
It takes some time to get used to, but this way of walking is pretty liberating. By being aware of how my body is moving, it feels like I'm learning to walk for the first time again. The act of walking itself becomes an experience.
It's actually really fun. It's very refreshing. You're relaxed in a very energetic way, if that makes sense. But at the start, I was like this, and then afterwards, I was trying to focus on my feet. Most of the time, we only walk with the heel and the ball of our feet, but I started walking with my toes as well, and it's a completely different feeling.
参禅的人行走叫行云流水，你看那个流水，它是没有断点的，是绵绵密密的啊，然后就一步套一步，一步套一步，是连贯起来。
像音乐一样是。
对。
The nuns abide by a strict schedule and have returned to class, so I'm left to wander around by myself. Although the site of Caoshan Baoji Temple is over 1100 years old, The current structure has only been around for 5 years. It was completely rebuilt from the ground up.
那时候寺院是什么样的？
就是也是一片荒芜啊，什么都
就已经没有了。
没有了。那个时候我们都好小的，说实话，那个时候都是7、8岁的时候，就有日本人经常在拍照。
那他们过来干什么呀？
他们过去考察呀，找那个祖先呢，这个弟子在外面发展呢，肯定他的寻根问源呢什么。
现在杨丽法师来了，就有一些改变了，是吗？
我们起码走出去，看到了那个心境各方面就好多了，很舒心。
The neighbouring villages originally protested against the temple being restored, but its development has attracted many visitors, even a former Japanese Prime Minister. They include these Brits from the Cambridge Rivers Project, who are here on a cultural exchange.
Don't put the kind of medicine or whatever in it. And you look at the package.
As part of its outreach, the temple provides free medical checkups for local villagers and helps farmers package and sell their seasonal produce. The temple's goal is to improve the livelihood of everyone around them.
So you basically rich. And I just found so many things in China I wanted to paint. I felt like I was coming home to find my subjects.
That's interesting. How does it differ from the kind of Buddhism you see in India?
But in terms of traditional Indian Buddhism, you have very different types, very different schools. You have a form of Buddhism in which enlightenment can only be achieved by monks, and will take millions of years to
I don't think we'll get there in time.
In this monastery, I find it very different from the sorts of Buddhist monastery I've found before, because this is a very socially engaged Buddhism.
I'm just blown away by it, quite honestly. I think it's absolutely wonderful. It feels like a working temple.
For practitioners of Chan, there is no significant distinction between practice and daily life. You're always cultivating yourself. And you don't have to be a monk or a nun to do it either. Just always try to live fully in the present.
It's not so bad. I mean, everyone does chores around here, and over the last couple of days I've been asking people what Chan is, and I don't think I can give you a definite answer. I think it's a combination of simplicity, awareness and focus, regardless of what you're doing, whether it's sweeping floors or chopping vegetables or even walking. If you can get rid of all distractions, it allows you to be more mindful. And once you can do that, then you can find joy in anything you do. And I think that's the great thing about Chan.